Good evening. It is May 13th, 2024. I am thankful that you are able to join us this evening for our show, Attaining Your Personal Best. So we're going to start as we normally do with going over a concept and hoping that it provides some clarity for you and is helpful as you navigate your life. So the concept I want to share with you, we also call these winning strategies that we share each week before we go into conversations with our guest. And this winning strategy is called Settle Your Spirit, which is a reminder that our spirit often is a challenge because we have challenging thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And there's a compounding that goes on as we try to figure out our next steps. So again, we have a thought, and the way we're thinking then affects how we're feeling. And then based off our feelings, we then have behaviors. So our challenge is, how do we get better thoughts? Because once we have better thoughts, we're going to have better feelings, and we're going to have potentially better behaviors. And the way to do that is to slow things down and to allow for ourselves to think a little bit clearer. And we often can think clearer because our spirit is settled. Often the challenges that we experience in our life and the things that go so very wrong so very quickly happen in a very short duration. They happen often in seconds, in minutes. I'm sure some of us have been driving and we take our eyes off the road for just a couple of seconds, and we're distracted by something. We're playing with our cell phone or turning the station on the radio. And again, we're just a very, very short distraction. And we find ourselves in potentially a very precarious situation. Again, seconds. And what's important for us to realize is most of the challenges we have were things that did not consume an enormous amount of time. They just consumed our attention and often were a distraction for a short period of time, or we got off course. We deviated from our plan. We allowed often our thoughts and our feelings in a negative way to then allow us to participate in behaviors which we come to regret. So I think it's important for us to just keep in mind when it comes to the amount of time that it needs for us to experience a sense of destruction. It's very limited. But often the time that it's going to take to rebuild after spending those few seconds is going to be enormous. So it is not an equal trade. That what it took to lose it is not going to be what it's going to take to rebuild it. So please keep that in mind and just remind ourselves to settle our spirit, to not allow ourselves to get riveted and ratchet up our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors to a level that we'll tend to regret. So please keep that in mind as we go forth over the next days and hours and weeks. It's always something I find I'm reminding myself more often than not to settle my spirit. All right, so we have a guest this evening, and that guest is Mr. Jules Johnson. How are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Dr. Williams? Thanks for having me.
Yep.
And those are awesome words that we started off with. Great start.
Well, good. Very good. So Jules is someone that I've known for at least the last, 25 years or so. So it's been a long time. And I knew him when he was a child, but now he's a grown man with children and a family and a full life. So Jules, why don't you introduce yourself in the way you'd like to be introduced, and to share with people a little about who you are.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for having me, first off. My name is Jules Johnson. I am 39 years old. I'll be 40 in July. Father of three, 19-year-old son. He's currently studying to get his doctorate in physical therapy at Westchester University here in Pennsylvania, the Philly area. I have a soon-to-be 12-year-old daughter, sixth grade, top of her class, top student. She's written books. She's an awesome actor, speaker, just all-around great kid. And then I have a soon-to-be 6-year-old, my youngest daughter. She's in kindergarten, and she's excelling as much as you can in kindergarten, right? Everything's in the lines. She knows her ABCs, so she's doing great, following up the family lineage.
Wow.
So that's the best part about me, and the most important part. I always start when I'm introducing myself by saying that, because they are my favorite people in the world, and they keep me motivated every day to keep going and do what I'm supposed to be doing. I met Dr. Williams in 2001? What would you say? I'd say 2001. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
A very trying time in my life, and a very uncharted territories for me. And Dr. Williams is like a godsend, coming to help not only myself, but my twin brother, who's no longer with us. But I think one of our first conversations, I threatened you, I believe, to make sure my twin brother got up there, or I was going to burn the place, something like that. I don't remember what it was, but
well, I remember
statute of limitations, right? I can tell that story.
Exactly. I remember it very distinctly. I'll be, in a nursing home with applesauce drooling down my chin, and I'll remember that story, how I was threatened. But again, I joke about that, but I think that really was the first time that I realized how much you really loved him. Because I've never, and I don't know about, I'll say it, but I never really felt a person was like at their wit's end and really didn't have a real interest in living than that statement. There was something deep about it, that your connection to him and your wanting him to be with you was like a very clear mandate. And I felt it like I never felt anyone ask me for anything before then or after that it was something that was really, really important to you. And so, we made, the phone calls, and we're able to make it happen pretty soon thereafter. But I realized the urgency for you and how important it was for you. And it was very, very clear. So, I realized then how much you truly loved your brother and your family. So
it's the twin curse, Doc. I can't get rid of that guy. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
He's been with me from the beginning, so I always wanted to have him with me. And I definitely appreciate you guys and Child First for making that happen. It made my experience up there a lot easier and just a more enjoyable experience. And I was able to fully get the full aspects of everything without having to worry about survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt, I guess you would call it, just knowing that my brother had the same opportunity that I had. And then follow up on that, two of my younger brothers also made their way up there, another set of twins. So definitely impacted our family in ways that are still going on. So anything you need, I definitely got you.
Jules, just stick with that for a second, and please continue to share more of your story. But I want to stop there for a moment, because I don't think people often understand that, often being away from your family, and especially when you're in placement, leaves a mark on you. You can't explain it. And I was talking to your brother Clayton, and he was saying that I think also Ricky was saying that he's driven by and showed his children the placement that he was in as a child in foster care. It's just something, and I've done that with my own children. We've driven back to New York, and I'm showing them this group home and that group home, and it just leaves a real strong mark. And I don't know your thoughts about it. You and I have never really had a chance about it, but just hearing you say what you just said, it sounds like you agree that it's something that, even though sometimes you may only spend a couple of years there, it's an experience like no other. Your thoughts?
Yes. It's my kids they cannot believe any of the stuff I tell them. They're like, "What, Dad? Like, we what? You're who? You're what?" They see the finished product, and they don't really get to see the things behind the curtain when you get to see who the real Wizard of Oz is, really. And everything you have is inside of yourself already. You don't need anybody. But I definitely showed them what was going on, and they were just shocked to know the story. But just from the beginning, I come from a family of 5 boys, 1 girl. My mom had 2 sets of twins, and then just 2 regular kids, I guess you'd say. My father was never really in the picture. I'm thankful that he was there to help us, though, to get here, but he was never really in the picture to help us out. My mom really raised us all on her own. She had her own struggles with drug addiction and just the struggles of raising 6 kids on her own, and just trying to live and find things out her own way and deal with her own struggles. That as I got older, I got to understand what my mom was going through at that time that affected her, that affected me in the long run. But you don't get to know that stuff until later on. But we grew up in the normal things you would think of, the low-income housings, the projects, I guess you'd call them, getting the food stamps and all the government assistance, and in and out of shelters and group homes, and just a lot of displacement and a lot of turmoil and just a lot of movement going on with the whole family. And I would say as young as 2 to 3 weeks, I was staying with another family that was helping my mom.
Wow.
With helping us. So basically my whole life has been a trash bag life, as we'd call it in the group home setting, where we know never to have our stuff put away in the drawers or anything. If any of the staff ever noticed that, kids won't unpack because we're so used to being on the go and going to the next spot. We never really get comfortable anywhere. So yeah, just living those natural steps of.
And Jules, let me interrupt you just 1 second. I think often people don't realize, that garbage bag statement, that a lot of times when children in foster care move, they often are moving in black garbage bags, where
Yes.
Everybody else will move in with some other kind of container to have their stuff in. And so one of the things we did a couple of years ago is we established a relationship with the Philadelphia airport. A lot of times people leave their luggage behind. And so the Philadelphia airport cleans out all the luggages, and they'll give us the suitcases. And so we've been able to make sure that when people have to move, they move in suitcases that are lightly used, if not brand new, rather than having to move in black garbage bags. But again, something that I think the average person wouldn't even think about, that stuff you put out to the curb to never see again. Often children in foster care are using to move from one home to another as their tool from placement to placement. So again, there are some things we can do to try to make it better, and sometimes the simple thing of just make sure they have a suitcase goes a long way. But I'm sorry, Jules, I cut you off.
Well, that's one of the things I love about Child First. You guys are always trying to find the small things that can make a huge impact, because if you think about trash bags, you're putting your trash in there, you're just throwing it away. You're not thinking of something that you're enriching and that you're investing in. So having a nice suitcase that you can put your things in, you just feel more regular and more like a person. So when you get these resources and these therapies, you're able to accept it and you're able to, use it to your advantage. A lot of times, people aren't getting past the little barriers that the kids are putting them through, and they're really just testing them to make sure that they give a heck, that they care enough.
Right.
And I say we're because I'm still that, even at darn near 40, I'm still that kid that wants to know that the people that are in place to help me are there for the right reasons, because the the people who I felt that way and who should have been that have never been. So it's hard for, the clients or the residents to not think of staff as just somebody that's getting a check and just there to, support their whatever. So we will put you guys through things so that we can make sure, and we're not just being troubled, and we're not just being, just hard to deal with and just jerks and dickheads or whatever. We're actually wanting to know that there's skin in the game and that there's some investment on the people who are supposed to be there for us. And if you can think about it, if you remember Terry Large, we butted heads like two rams, like, you would think we hated each other, but I feel like Terry loved me and I love Terry to this day. And when I see her, it's all love. And it was just my way of making sure that everything that she was saying and doing was authentic.
Wow.
And if people can take a step back and just understand perspective instead of our own ego and our own, things that we just go through every day as human beings, we can understand how to help other people out. And that's one of the reasons why I like doing stuff like this, because I have a unique perspective.
Sure.
Not only being in placement, but also working in placement and using the knowledge I've gained to try to help other kids out.
And Jules,
I'm continuing.
If you don't mind, talk a little bit about that, because when you turned 18, you left and you went off to college. So, fill in that gap for people between the ages of 18 and 39. What are some of the things that you did when it came to work and employment?
Okay, real quick, because I don't want to discredit you guys, but when I got to Jim Thorpe, with me and my brother, we entered the sports programs up there. We were involved in every after-school activity possible to keep ourselves focused and grounded. And we got to get that achievement and that admiration from people and that feeling of that we're somebody. And that helped more than anything while we were up there. That kept us out of trouble because we wanted to be able to go to our football games and our basketball games. And we were staying, our grades were good because we wanted to be eligible to play and things like that. And those are things that can help any resident client. I don't know what the correct political term is now, but any kid that we're trying to help is to keep them busy and active. And that's what got me to my next step, along with the enrichment of staff and people that I know really care about me and people that I still talk to and have relationships right now. And every day we're still having moments and things like that. So I think I was one of the first people in the independent living program. It was called Jonathan's Point at that time. And myself and my brother, we basically had an apartment upstairs. There was an apartment downstairs where the staff lived. And they helped us with little things like going shopping. We didn't have a license, but anything with transportation and things like that. But we were basically, on our own to find our way, make sure it was getting us ready for the next step, which is something that was invaluable and I'm always thankful for. I learned how to budget my money and go grocery shopping and make a list and what we're making for the week and things that are helping me now with my kids and getting meal plans together and things that are just forever good for me. But once I graduated from Jim Thorpe High School, I was still 17. I have a summer birthday, so I was 17 years old still. And the plan for me was to go to Northampton Community College and obtain my associate's in human services. I always wanted to work with kids and give back because I believe the only reason why I'm here today is because so many people have given back to help me. And that's something that I wanted to make sure that I passed along and passed on. So I went to Northampton. It was a 2-year program. You guys set me up nicely down there. I had all the stuff before you guys left. And we went to Walmart, got everything. And the training wheels were off. I was on my own to figure it out. Luckily, I had tools in my toolbox, like the Navigator of Life, and different experiences just from my whole life that I can navigate everything in a way that was proper and, suitable. But I completed the 2-year program. It did take me 3 years. I took my time, and thank you. Appreciate, everybody for helping me with that. But once I completed that program, I went to a community college here in Allentown, Pennsylvania called Lehigh Carbon Community College, and I obtained my another associate's in social work. Um, in between that time, my youngest son, well, oldest, excuse me, who's 19 now, was being born, and I applied for a job at a company called Kids Peace here. It's one of the biggest providers in this area, and it's working with at-risk youth, and basically the same type of stuff that I was going to school for. And I started a job at a community residential program there, where the kids lived in a house similar to where I lived in a group home setting, and they went to regular school similar to what I was going through, and I was able to use my knowledge and give back and also support my family and do what I was.
Well, it seems like we have a little technical issue there, so we'll wait for. There you go.
Got a little tough hearing stories, and I'm sorry. We're good.
You're good. You're good now. You're good.
Well, yeah, it got tough hearing some of the stories, and I kind of immersed myself into things a little more than I should have, I think. And it got a little emotionally rough for me because I was taking things home with me, and I was feeling things for the kids, and I was having.
Well, hopefully it'll come on back. All right.
I wasn't sure if that was going to be what my path was going to be going forward. In the meantime, I applied for a job at my old group home with child from the Williams house. Dr. Williams obviously was happy to have me. I worked there, I think, about 3 years there.
Right.
And that was a really unique experience because I actually slept in the bed where those kids were sleeping. I played on that basketball court back there in the back. I basically lived what they're living. So when I was talking to them, they could feel what I was saying. I was at those events and the Skills for Life I went to. So I had a unique experience working with them, and it was enjoyable for me. It was an hour drive there, an hour home. During that hour of home, I was so excited to know that I was to help people that were in a direct position.
All right, we're going to let Jules call back in. There you are, Jules. It looks like you're good now. Go ahead, Jules. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. You were saying that you were happy that you were in a direct position to help the kids, being that you were in the same spot as they were, and then we lost you. So pick up from there.
So that was definitely fulfilling for me, and it was different than when I was working at Kids Peace because I didn't feel directly connected to them, but when I was up there in Albrightsville and the Poconos, I felt a direct connection as if I was one of those kids back in that same bed. It was almost nostalgic kind of, and being able to help people. And like I said, so many people helped me to get there. And I could remember staff that I can still remember today, Al Hayward and a Derek and a Omar Cumberland. And I remembered I wanted to be like they were, somebody who was real and palpable and somebody who I can touch and feel and know like, okay, they're here to help me and they're not just here for whatever reason. And that was something that helped me grow as a person and help my development as a former resident of group home.
Good. And so you did that for a couple of years. And then after you left Child First, where did you go to work after that?
All right. So after I left Child First, I worked in the mental health unit at St. Luke's here in Allentown, one of our biggest hospitals in Allentown. Still helping people, still trying to, do something to help people get better. During that time, I actually lost my vision. Now, I had my older brother had started a moving company when we were young, and he passed away, and he actually passed the company to me. So we were doing it on the weekends and kind of just playing around with it, having extra money to play with. But once I went blind, totally blind out of both eyes, no sight.
And
I decided to.
Jules, you know what caused the blindness?
Okay, so going back, I even before I got the child first, I had what's called a retina detachment. I had a football injury. I got hit, and I hit my head on the ground, and my whole left side was actually paralyzed for about 4 months.
Hmm.
So I had to detach retina, and it impacted my sight where I could only see light and some vision out of my left eye. I really kept that a secret. A lot of people didn't know about that when I got up to Jim Thorpe because I really didn't want to be
Mm-hmm.
a target or somebody who was looked at different. So I played my whole career up there with these disadvantages. People really didn't know. So that was the start of my eye problems. My first eye surgery, I was 11. I had a cataract surgery. So my eyes have always been a little hinky and something that's been a draw. But from my right eye having to work so much more to help with my vision,
Mm-hmm.
my lens basically burst in my eye. And
Wow.
sorry for all the medical terms, but I had what's called a lensectomy, where they took my lens out of my eye and gave me an artificial lens. And then after that, they gave me a cataract surgery. So all in all, from the time I went blind until the time I could see again now, I had 32 surgeries.
Wow.
And I've been all up and down the East Coast. Doctors didn't want to perform the work on me because it was such a delicate task.
Mm.
But I never gave up because I figured I can't see anyway. So what am I losing? If you mess up, I still can't see. So I wanted to try everything I could to get my vision back. I wanted to see my son's games and be able to be there for him. I was still there, but I couldn't see it. I could hear it, but just him knowing his dad was there was something that I wanted to make sure I was able to do. And it took a lot of strength to get my family through all that because I wasn't able to provide and things like that. But during that time is when I really focused on what I do now, which is I own a moving and hauling company. We do moving across the country, anywhere, big, small, whatever. We do deliveries, we haul trash, we do pretty much anything. If you call me, I'll figure out a way to get it done. But while I was blind,
Jules,
I'm sorry.
it's just for a second that Beast Moving that's the name of the company that we see underneath your name there. So, and one of the things I liked that you shared the other day was that a part of one of the business lines is you move college students to and from college. So if families don't have to deal with that, you'll take care of the moving on and off campus. So I thought that was neat. So Beast Moving.
Yes. So officially, it's called Beast Moving and Hauling LLC. We're fully legit, insured, incorporated with the state, with the city. Everything is on the up and up. But during that time when I went blind is when I invested in the company. I bought the trucks. I have a friend that works for the school district buses here. He's in charge of the school district buses. He helped me find some trucks that were in good shape and good condition. And I really just wanted to have a way to provide for my family and just feel like I was a part of, the enrichment and nourishment of my son and my daughter who was just born at that time. And from that time on, that's all I've done is run the company, and it's changed my life, my family's life.
Wow.
I'm able to have flexibility. I'm able to do things with them, and it's helped me understand everything. And I don't say our slogan, but our tagline is God is helping us to move the world. And that was controversial in the beginning. People were like, don't put God in there, and don't do this and don't do that. But I fully believe God is helping us to move the world, and he's providing us with all these opportunities and all these blessings. And I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm going to be up forward with that. And I'm going to, champion that flag anywhere I go, because my faith is what got me here. I literally could not see, 10, 11 years ago. And here I am now.
And how long were you blind for? What was the period of time that you could not see, Jules?
I was totally blind for about 2.5 years.
Wow.
About 33 surgeries, 2.5 years, and a lot of angst and just faith and praying and just having faith. And to be honest with you, God has always been with me this whole time. I wouldn't be here now if he wasn't, because he's put people in places like a Dr. Williams, like my Aunt Bernice, who you met at the funeral and who you got to see is very vocal and integral. And, you know, like a lot of other people, like a Ricky and every time I turn around, it's been somebody there or something there to help push me through.
Sure.
So I always felt confident knowing that I would be able to see again and be here today to be an inspiration for my children. They got to see you can do anything. They think I'm Superman now.
Wow.
And for other people who are around me who have seen what I've been through and where I come now, and this is my testimony, and I'm always going to give back what I can to help anybody in any situation and let them know how blessed I've been and how,
well,
you know.
And I think, Jules, you maintain a very special viewpoint. You know, the way in which you look at the world is unique. You've gone through a lot, but you've come through a lot. And I think that's the part that you're, you know, making sure people understand. Yeah, I've gone through a lot, but I've come through the other side of it. And even as much as, you know, coming from a somewhat challenging home and having some health issues. And so, again, you've gone through a lot, but you've been brought through on the other side. So there are two things I wanted to talk a little about. One was you are now a father. You had mentioned earlier that you didn't have very much of a father role in your life. How are you able to fill in those blanks for yourself where you may not have seen everything you were supposed to see, but you have these young people who are depending on you that are yours? So how did you fill in the gap, being that you didn't have an example always in front of you?
Well, I'm thankful that God had placed strong men in my life that I got to see and take a little bit from to, you know, formulate what my own way I wanted to be a man was. But the biggest thing was I always knew what I wanted and what I felt like I needed. So I knew what that was already. And I knew that the main thing was just to show up and be present. And I can do that if I have $1 million, if I have 1 penny, I can show up and be present. If I can see, if I can't see, I can show up and be present in their life. And them just knowing that dad's going to be there for them in the good times and the bad times, it gives me what I need to make sure that I'm always going to be there for them. Everything I do is to make sure I'm there for them. I mean, that's why I live a clean life. I don't get in any trouble because I want to make sure I'm available for them and I'm there for them. I feel like my life could have been so much different if I would have had that father, male figure from the beginning, encouraging me, enriching me, and just giving me that power of knowing that there's a strong man behind me, that even when I fall, he's going to pick me up with no judgment, with no unwarranted, unsolicited. Everything he's going to do is from the bottom of his heart. And God blessed me with some strong women that you may think were men. Like, you met my aunt, so you can see that woman is strong as any man I know. And she's been through everything. She actually picked cotton back in Mississippi. She comes from Mississippi, so she has been through so much, and she gave me so much strength of seeing her handle not only her children, but 2 children that are not hers, with no man in the house. She showed me what strength and courage looks like. And I strongly suggest men be in the house, but I know that you can get those same characteristics and that same strength from a strong woman who has grit and just power all around her. And she kept us in church, so we had a great foundation, and we knew what God was, and we knew that we can lean on and do what we had to do. But I knew from the time that his mom told me that she was pregnant, that my life had changed, and I was on a path that wasn't going to have me sitting here today talking to Dr. Williams, even after all the help and after all that. But the day that I seen the pregnancy test, I knew Um, Everything just instantly changed for me. I had a higher purpose in life, and I wanted to make sure that he never went through what I went through.
Mm.
And I think I did okay. I mean, he's going to be a doctor soon, and he's never had any problem. He's never touched any alcohol, never had a smoke, never. I think he cursed the other day for the first time I've heard him. So
Wow.
I think I'm doing okay. And thankfully, I got to see fathers like yourself with not only your kids, but with us, who I still say that we're all your kids too. And just the graciousness that you showed, not only then, but still today. I can call you for any time. I've called you at 1:00 in the morning, and we've cried and we've talked. And I've always had people in my life, strong men that were grounded and
I think, Jules, you bring up a really good point. I think some of us want and expect, to have mom and dad on shift and never leave until we say so. And for you and I, we didn't have that available to us. But I think, as you said, there was always someone there. Someone was on shift, whether it was this person or that person, a male or female, there was always, so you weren't forsaken. It's just that often how you envisioned it was a little bit different, and the village looked different than you expected. So you were on your own, but you were not alone. And I think that's important for people to realize, is sometimes we just have this picture about how life is going to be, and it generally never is that way. But again, there's someone there. There's somewhat of a safety net. It may not, look the way you expect it to be, but it's there. And I think it's, again, you have a good point about your son and, being 20 years old and, hearing that news that really gave you a mandate, gave you an expectation, gave you an inspiration and motivation that has kept you all these years. And again, you still young children. But I think for you, that having that boy and being your first was a boy, I think it just gave you a different kind of mandate. And I'm sure if you would have had a girl first, it would have been also important. But I think it just made everything go full circle for you when you heard that responsibility. But we're running out of time, but I want to talk about one other thing that we just recently, you more importantly than I, went through, is that you just lost your twin. Recently, he passed away. And I know that grief is difficult for a lot of different people and how they handle it. And you were handling extremely well and very, with a sense of lightness about it. But I'm sure as time goes on, there are moments that it hits you harder than others. And I try to remind people that grief doesn't have a schedule. It's going to show up when grief wants to show up. It may be at 12 o'clock today, maybe at 2 o'clock tomorrow. It may be you don't think about it for 2 days this week, and then another day you're thinking about nothing else. So it doesn't have a schedule. But what I want to ask you is, how are you doing as you're going through this journey of grief, especially losing a brother? Losing a brother is one thing, but I think I can only imagine losing a twin, and knowing how close you two were. I'm sure it has its challenges. But so how are you doing, Jules?
All right, me and Nietzsche had a bet that you're going to try to get me to cry on this damn thing. So I'm not, listen. All right, so we're still good, Nietzsche. Look, I'm not, okay. Oh, you son of a gun. All right, yeah. I think God has been preparing me for this moment specifically. I had to do the eulogy for my brother. The toughest thing I've had to do. People said I did all right. I don't know how that works on a eulogy, if it's good or bad, but people said I did okay. Best they ever seen. I don't know. But
best eulogy.
Wow. Yeah, it's been tough. This is actually my brother's shirt I have on, guys. So as you see how nice I'm looking at. So it's little things that I'm trying to do to keep myself and still feel him. Wearing his shirt, and I have his watch that I'm wearing, and I really want to not make it too sad and just try to memorialize my brother every day. He's literally been with me my whole life. So I don't feel like he's not with me anymore, although he's unalive and he's no longer here in the physical form. I still feel like he's here with me every day, and he's helping and he's guiding me. And it definitely, like you said, once the funeral's over and everybody goes home, you're by yourself. So thank you for those words, but not literally. I know I can call people and they'll be there for me, but I'm alone with with my thoughts. And it's given me strength, and it's actually helped me keep myself sane, is getting a regiment going. I wake up every morning about 5:30, and I just walk or I jog. So when my mind gets bogged down and I start thinking negatively, I try to do something physical to keep myself from thinking negatively. I want to turn my brother's death into something positive and something life-changing, not only for myself, but for anybody who comes in contact with me. In the past 18 months, I've lost my father, my mother, and my twin brother. So a lot of people can't get through one of those things. I'm still here standing after all of that stuff. And I want to use that as an inspiration to my children and anybody who's around me to know that no matter what's going on with you, you can take strength and courage from it and propel you to something that has never been seen before. My whole life, I've always felt like I've only scratched the surface of what I'm capable of for whatever that reason is. And I never used any excuses or anything to say what that is. But I feel like God is using this moment now to show me to go to the full potential of what I am and who I can be, and how that's going to affect not only myself and the people I love, but everybody around me, and just different people.
Well, guess what, Jules?
Nita, you won.
Well, Jules,
damn it. Now I owe somebody a steak, damn it.
Wow.
That was not paid for, guys. That was a real, God.
I guess back to Top Cut. I'm glad you're paying this time. I'm glad you're paying. Well, Jules,
wow. These are happy tears, though, everybody. I really feel better now after having this talk. And my brother's still here with us, although he's not here with us. But you can see it in myself. And the last thing I'll say, because I know we got to go, is there's nothing too big. There's nothing too small. Now, that is my slogan for moving, but that's a slogan for life also. There's nothing too big, nothing too small. Wow. Just stay the course and use the people that are around you, that love you and that care about you, and use them. That's something that I've had to do, and something that Dr. Williams has helped me do, is to let my walls down and use the people that want to help me and that are there to help me. And you don't know what can come out of it. So quick cry.
Jules, on so many levels, there's so much I want to say as we close out. But I think the most important thing is I am extremely proud of you in what you have become, and I think what you're becoming. When we first started out this show, I was like going crazy because the signal wasn't as strong and consistent. It was very choppy. And then halfway through, when I threw you off and put you back on, we were fine ever since. And I think that's, like, to me, the epitome of like your life, is that the start was rough and a little choppy, but you hang in there, and the ending is beyond what you expect. You just let it happen. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're doing right by yourself and right by other people. It's going to come together. And I think that's the confidence that we just have to remind ourselves. And again, your whole story, and you're only 40. It's not over yet, and there's so much more that you have the potential to do. And you've gone through so much, and I think it's all for a reason. And I know your story is going to resonate with people, ones that you will know, and others that just will take a few minutes to listen to what you had to share this evening. And it may save their life, but I know for 100%, if they listen, it's going to improve their life. And so just please have confidence in knowing that you are making a difference. And again, I believe God gave you this assignment. And it's at times very burdensome, but it's for his people. And he's going to use any of us to help to help his people. So give yourself credit for allowing yourself to be a conduit and an instrument, and just continue to keep letting that happen. And I want us to do a better job of staying in more frequent contact. And I'd like you to come back in the future. We can talk about, again, there's so much that's going on in your life, and maybe you have your son, join as a Father's Day's next month. So maybe for Father's Day, we can have you and your son come on and talk. And I think I can get him to tell the real stories. We'll put you on a separate screen somewhere, and I'll question him.
Well, I say we need 2 cameras for that, Doc. And I don't know who's more.
He has a lot of hair too.
He does.
Yeah, he does. But again, Jules, I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm inspired by you. I'm motivated by you. And again, I think your best is yet to come.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I love you too, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me and continue to do for me. And I appreciate God for putting you in my life and just being just a spark and helping nourish me and get me to where I am today, because it definitely takes a village, and I never can pay you back for what you've done for me and continue to do for me.
You already have. All right. Love you dearly. We'll see you soon.
Love you.
Thanks. Be good. Bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was something very special. And I thank so much for Jules for sharing his story and allowing us to take some time to listen in and to be a spectator on his journey. Again, I really will try very hard to have him on next month as we celebrate Father's Day, and have him and his son, maybe his other children, his daughters as well, to join in, just to get a different perspective and to learn how he's attaining his personal best. So until next Monday, be well, and thank you so much for watching.